Hey guys, I hope y'all had a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoyed your Father's Day weekend. If you are a father, I hope you felt special and that you were celebrated. We did celebrate with my in-laws, and I used the charcoal grill for the first time. It's a learning experience, but I enjoyed the hamburgers and the hot dogs that I did successfully grill. And you guys know that if I can do it, that's an amazing accomplishment. Well, anyhow, guys, so we know that in this world, not just in America, but in the whole world, we are having an epidemic of metabolic illnesses that I believe, for the most part, are unnecessary. We know that a lot of our metabolic illnesses, such as type 2 diabetes, is completely unnecessary and brought on by our dietary choices. Whether we know what we're doing or not, we still do it to ourselves just by the food choices that we put into our bodies. And we know that the root cause of our metabolic illnesses is due to insulin resistance. And we get that insulin resistance from eating all the carbs and the sugar and spiking our insulin up. And then our cells become immune to our essentially immune, almost resistant to our insulin hormone. So the way to reverse our unnecessary diseases is to get rid of that insulin resistance ultimately. Now, we know the two biggest ways to reduce our insulin resistance is, first, change your dietary lifestyle, get rid of the carbs and the sugar, eat whole food, meat, and some non-starchy vegetables if you want some vegetables, okay? And then the second way that you do it is by implementing intermittent fasting, which I've done other videos on. So I won't get into how to do those two things, but those are the two biggest things that we do to fix our insulin resistance. But what if I told you there was yet one more thing you can do to help with your insulin sensitivity? Let's take a look. Well, guys, we have always heard about vitamin D and how important it is. When I was a kid, there was a popular commercial going around about, got milk and how it does the body good because it's so full of vitamin D. And I never really knew why growing up, why vitamin D was so important. I just knew, hey, it's got to be important because of this commercial, right? As I got older, I learned that vitamin D was good for bone health. It was good for our immune systems, and it was good for, helping prevent cancer. That's all I really knew what vitamin D was good for. But I've heard Dr. Berry make comments such as, we could talk for hours about the benefits of vitamin D. And so that tells me, well, there's got to be more to vitamin D than just bone health, immune system, and prevention of cancer, right? So I looked into what vitamin D might be good for in terms of, and I started with type 2 diabetes because that's where my passion's at, talking about. But, I pulled it up, and guys, I was surprised. And I'm surprised because I'm not a doctor, so I don't know these things. But for me, it was surprising that vitamin D is actually closely correlated with your insulin hormone. And did you know that in a lot of type 2 diabetics, and I would go on a venture to say anybody with a lot of metabolic illnesses, uh, have low vitamin D levels? And you might say, well, why is that? Well, because according to Dr. Allen, I'm afraid to mispronounce his name, so if I do, please forgive me. Dr. Allen Sacerdote, uh, he believes that vitamin D, he talks about vitamin D being in correlation to our insulin, and how if we are insulin resistant, our bodies have a hard time absorbing the vitamin D like it should be doing, whether we're getting it from the sun, whether we're taking it by supplement or through our food. Now, I don't know if this Dr. Allen supports a ketogenic lifestyle. I don't know much more about him. I just happen to find him in relation to the topic of vitamin D and insulin resistance, because I don't think I can recall ever hearing Dr. Berry talk about how vitamin D is hard for us to absorb when we're very insulin resistant. Now, that doesn't mean he's never talked about it. I just haven't heard it from him. Okay. And so when I first looked it up, I got it from a Google search saying, oh, yeah, it does that. But, you can trust Google's researches as far as you can throw a house, right? So I just wanted to make sure on that. So I did find that this doctor does talk about it. And it's interesting that everything in our system just seems to kind of really work together. And in this journey, I'm learning that nothing is by itself. Our insulin hormone doesn't do its job, and our vitamin D isn't just on its own doing its thing. It all comes together, and it all goes hand in hand. So when it's starting to seem to me that when you're starting to have problems in one area, you're having problems in another area in your body. And that itself is mind blowing, but I won't get into all that. I'm trying to stay on topic here. But anyway, so when we have high insulin resistance, and we know we do when we have type 2 diabetes, we have a hard time getting our vitamin D levels up. And that makes really good sense to me. So I really believe that this is a true thing, because look, when I first went to the doctor and got diagnosed in August of 2022, my vitamin D level was 29, which according to labs, it tends to say, your normal range is 30 to 100. So you might say, well, it's not that low, Susan. No, it's not as low as others are reporting theirs to have been. Chris's vitamin D last year was 22, which is getting pretty scary low. Having said that, Dr. Berry does say that he thinks the optimal range that we should be in is 50 to 100. So to reap all the benefits that vitamin D does give us. All right. So in light of that, I'm a pretty good ways away from that. So my doctor in August of 2022 did suggest I take supplements. Interesting that she didn't say get out in the sun. she just said take some supplements. Okay. So I got some supplements, and I don't remember which one it was because I didn't know anything about making sure I had the right one. I didn't know there was right ones to take and wrong ones to take at the time. So I don't even know if what I was taking at the time was any good. Anyhow, when the spring of 2023 rolled around, I started getting out in the sun and walking. And, I didn't know how much vitamin D I was actually getting. And I've always heard of, the vitamin D toxicity. If you get too much, it can be dangerous. So I didn't want to supplement and be in the sun. So I quit taking the supplements altogether, right? Because I thought, well, I'm out in the sun. I should be getting plenty of vitamin D, right? Well, in July of 2023, I went and established care with a new doctor and had him do a vitamin D test on me to see where I was at. And I was excited. I just knew I was going to be like 60 or 70. Everything's going to be great in that area. And no, my vitamin D was 49. Now, yes, I came up 20 points, right? But I didn't come up a whole lot. Not like I was seeing other people report their vitamin D levels coming up just by changing their dietary lifestyle and getting out in the sun when they're on the Dr. Berry's live question and answers on Monday nights. So I was a little discouraged in that, but I didn't understand why I didn't get so much, And then as the winter came around later that year in 2023 and then going into 2024, I slacked off in my supplementation of vitamin D, and then of course, as now, I'm out walking a lot in the sun again. And I'm hopeful that next month I have my annual doctor's appointment. And when I have them do that vitamin D test, well, if this is true with it being in correlation to the insulin resistance, then I've had a whole nother year to work on my insulin resistance and get it better. So then it may be that I've actually improved my vitamin D level more than I did last year. Now, again, I quit supplementing in the wintertime this year. I slacked on it. I don't know how much I lost because I did that. But if I've improved my insulin sensitivity, which I believe I have, by how much I don't know, I should be able to be confident in a higher vitamin D level, I would think. Makes sense. But here's the good news, guys. If you do get your insulin resistance lowered, the more sensitive you become to your insulin, the higher your vitamin D level comes up. And then when you get your vitamin D level up to adequate ranges, it helps you be insulin sensitive. Okay. So that's just another way that you can really punch your metabolic disease right square in the jaw and knock it out. Right. And other benefits as well from the vitamin D. I was just really impressed by, or not impressed, but rather just stunned at just how everything just is so tied into our insulin hormone. When we're resistant to it, we have all kinds of problems, and it's not just diabetes. All right. So if you are someone out there whose job is to be out in the sun all the time and you've got low vitamin D levels still, it could be that you have insulin resistance, and that's what's keeping you from building your vitamin D level up. Now, I'm not a doctor, so there could be other factors in there, but this might be one of the reasons why. And you'll have insulin resistance if you have any kind of weight on your abdomen. Okay, that's where it starts. And so you don't have to be a diabetic to have insulin resistance. You can be insulin resistant without being diabetic. If you don't do anything about it, you will become diabetic though. Okay. So if you are having low vitamin D levels, there are 3 ways that you can boost your vitamin D. One is obviously through the sun. And if you look at this image, it's from Grassroots, and I don't know much about Grassroots. It's just I found that this image was really interesting. You can determine your by going through your longitude and latitude what months of the year is the best for vitamin D, and then at the bottom, as you can see, you can tell by how long you need to be out in the sun daily to get the maximum benefit of the vitamin D. And for me, I fall between the Los Angeles and New York line. So June, July, August is the best months for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of you. Unless you're in Sydney, Australia, then that's January, February, and March. But anyhow, if you look at the bottom here, I'm trying to magnify this image so I can read it. There it goes. It'll tell you that when you're in the red months for you, you will only need to be out in the sun for maybe 10 to 20 minutes. If you're light skinned, which I am very light skinned, it don't take much. But if you have darker pigmentation, you're going to need to be out there longer because something about the darker color skin, it takes more of the sunshine to absorb. Okay. And then, of course, in the orange time of the year, you'll need a little bit more, even if you're light skinned, because as you go into the winter months, you don't get as much vitamin D from the sun. I just thought it was interesting. And if you look at the right, I never knew that either. It's like, hey, is your shadow shorter than you are tall? Well, then the UV index is above 3. And if the shadow is longer than you are tall, it's not the best time. Now, on the Grassroots website, it does say that the best time of the day is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It doesn't matter what time zone you're in. It's whatever 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is for you. Now, I've heard Dr. Berry say that the early morning hours when the sun first comes up is the best times. So I don't know which is what, but it stands to reason since they said 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Dr. Berry has said in the morning that maybe 10 a.m. is probably the optimal time, maybe. But there you go. So now you know when you should be out there in the sun to get your best chance at vitamin D from the sun. But there is 2 other ways that you can do it because, hey, if you live in Washington State, I've heard that rains a lot there and you might not be able to get out in the sun and walk. So there are 2 other ways that you can help boost your vitamin D. The next one is through supplements. And you do take specific supplements. They say make sure that you're taking vitamin D3 and not D2. Your body better absorbs that. The vitamin D that I take it because Dr. Berry has it linked on his video. And so I just trust that that's the correct vitamin D. So if you are interested in taking some vitamin D supplements, I'll put the link to the Amazon to the vitamin D that I got. And again, I only choose that one because Dr. Berry is the one who recommended that one. So not because I know for sure which supplement you need to be taking. Okay. And I cannot tell you how much to take. You'll have to determine that with your doctor and all that. The next way that you can supplement your vitamin D is through your food. There are some vitamin D rich foods that you can enjoy. I got a list of 10 and sorry, my phone is going off. I got a list of 10 foods here, and you'll notice on these images that I've got a red X by some, and that means these are foods that I am not eating myself, but they are high in vitamin D if you might like them. So the first one is cod liver. I'm not interested in eating that. You guys might like it. Shrimp, tuna, you see the green check marks. I love shrimp and tuna. And then you might see on sardines, I got a yellow check mark. That means I'll eat a sardine, but I'm not a fan. And they say that to get the best nutrition from sardines is to eat the ones with the skin on and the bone in. I did that one time and I won't do that again. The crunchy from the bone really grossed me out. And it's just not for me. So a yellow check mark is I'm not going to outright refuse it, but if I got a choice, I'm going to go in with shrimp and tuna. But you guys might like it. And then you can see oysters. I've never tried an oyster. I can't get past the look and the thought of the texture, swallowing it. I can't do it. That's an X for me, but you guys, of course, may enjoy it. And then number 6 would be butter. And of course, the better butter would be grass-fed butter. But of course, if you can't afford grass-fed stuff, I can't, then just make sure it's real butter, not margarine. Then salmon. I like salmon, all right. There's fish eggs. I've never ate fish eggs. It grosses me out. I'll eat chicken eggs all day long. I don't want to eat fish eggs. It's just the look of them. So a red X for me. Egg yolks. I love eggs. I love egg yolks. That's a great option. And then there's liver, which red X for me on that one. Now I get the cheaper eggs and I don't get the grass-fed butter for budget reasons. So I'm not sure exactly how much vitamin D I actually get through my food, but if you can afford the pasteurized eggs and the grass-fed stuff, you may get a lot more vitamin D through your food than I do through mine. But if you guys, again, if you're like me and get the cheaper stuff, it's okay. You guys can be just as successful. And then there's one more thing that I found out that vitamin D can help with, and that is weight loss. Now, guys, when I first read that, it was on Google and I was like, yeah, right. But then I did find a Dr. Berry video about vitamin D and weight loss. And it makes perfect sense though, guys, because we know in the presence of insulin, we don't lose fat. So if we are becoming more sensitive to our insulin, that means our body is absorbing the insulin that our pancreas is producing for us. And we don't have the insulin floating around, therefore we can lose fat. And having that higher level of vitamin D makes us more sensitive to insulin. So therefore, it helps with weight loss. So when it says, so if you Google, vitamin D and weight loss, don't think, oh, if I get higher vitamin level of, vitamin D, then all this weight is just going to instantly drop off me. Well, no, but it will help with weight loss because it makes you more insulin sensitive. So that's just a bonus, right? All right. Well, guys, if you're like me, having this knowledge just helps keep you motivated. I don't have a problem going out and walking in the sun. I enjoy it. But there are days that I choose to walk inside my apartment because I have like a little treadmill because, watching a little movie or something while I'm walking seems just to be a little bit more entertaining than just walking outside. But knowing this, it gives me a little bit more motivation to actually go outside to do my walking. And if that's the case for you, then I hope this also has given you some motivation as well. Well, my friends, it's been a pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something. I learned a lot from my research as well. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.